Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wockonzo Weekly. I'm your host, Sareth Ney, and every week I interview a fellow producer, writer, director of all backgrounds, and I help get the new followers on Twitter and social media and all that good stuff and other stuff. And this week I'm honored to have my very first guest on the show is my friend Doug McPherson. Hey Doug, how are you, bud?
Hey, Sareth, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely, it's an honor, and thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Yep.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So you are a longtime veteran of the Orlando comedy scene,
That's
and
right. Yeah. Started back in 2013.
goodness, that's a
Feels
long
like
time.
forever. Yeah, it feels like forever ago now.
Indeed. And um, on top of performing, you helped launch the Orlando Indie Comedy Festival like 4 years, and you raised over $10,000 for local and national mental health charities. What was the experience like for all those indie comedy festivals?
The comedy fests were crazy. None of us had ever really done anything like that before, any kind of event planning. So it was very much we had to learn everything as we went. We had no idea what we were doing. The most experience any of us really ever had was producing just like local showcases or open mics. Like that was it. And so to go from that to trying to coordinate an entire 4 day long event with comedians from all over the country and national headliners and all of that, it was just completely different than anything any of us had ever done. So I'm sure we made a ton of stupid mistakes. But we learned as we went, and I feel like each one got better. Each one got more organized, at least. Um, so yeah, that was just a crazy experience to just go from never having done anything like that before to boom, here's a full 4 day event that you have 3 months to plan or whatever. Because we did the first one total in about 3 months, which was really, really crazy.
Indeed. What were some of your favorite headlining shows or performances through the years?
Yeah, the first festival, we were really lucky, and we had Kyle Kinane come and close out the show. That's to see that it was at Will's Pub, which I'm sure you've been to before, but that place was more crowded than I have ever seen. Uh, it was completely sold out. Like we could not have gotten another person in there. And unfortunately, their air conditioning had broken that day and was not working. So it was, I mean, it had to be 90 some degrees in there at least, and it was wild. But just that show, and like, because what that really kind of represented was just like, to me at least, was all of the hard work that went into that whole festival, just like completely paid off in that one night. To be able to have a comedy show like this in a standing room only venue. um, I don't think that anything like that had really been pulled off in Orlando before to that degree. So it just kind of felt like something that was a little bit historic for the Orlando comedy scene, and it was really cool to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And you've also brought like specialty shows from like all over. I went
Yeah.
the last year, the last year you had it. What
Mhm.
are your favorite specialty shows that you brought in?
I mean, it'll always be Late Breakfast. Late Breakfast is, if people have never heard of it, it's a show that was started by these two guys in Chicago, and Danny Maupin and Tyler Jackson, and they would have these shows on like Saturday afternoons, like late afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. is usually when they would do it, and they would have people come in and like make pancakes for the crowd. And then what it would be, the show itself would be just like these series of like silly challenges that they would put comedians through. And it was all totally random, hilarious stuff. They would just get these They would just fill up balloons with these pieces of paper that said like the name of some game that they had already like pre-thought of, and then they would just get the comedians up and have to do it. Some examples I remember: they took one comedian out of the room. They gave them a cell phone, and they pulled somebody from the crowd up on stage, and the comedian was talking to that person on the cell phone. So the person who's just in the crowd is the one actually delivering the jokes that they're getting in their ear from the comedian who's outside. Just silly stuff like that. That show was just so over the top and fun and just insane. That was always something that I would take time out. No matter how busy I was during the fest, I would always block out some time in my schedule to make sure that I could go check out Late Breakfast. They came to all of the festivals that we did, and every one of their shows was amazing.
Absolutely. I remember seeing that, and I think it was at Will's Pub when I saw that one.
Yeah, I think we always did those at Will's.
Yeah. Good stuff, most definitely.
Yeah.
And you're currently the producer of the bi-weekly Shit Sandwich Comedy Showcase at the Bull and Bush in Orlando.
Yeah.
And how did that awesome collab come about?
Well, I took that show over from the person who started it was a really good friend of mine. His name was Matt Gersting. He started the show back in 2011. Or was it 12? I'm sorry, I think it was 2012. Because, this year would have been the 8th anniversary. So, 2012. Then in 2016, unfortunately, he passed away. But the show was already so successful. And I know, like, for me getting started, when I got started in comedy, like, one of my goals was, like, I have to at least get to the point where Matt will book me on a shit sandwich. Like that was like more so than the improv, anything like that. Like I wanted to be a part of Shit Sandwich. And so, when Matt passed away, I knew him very well. I felt like I had a better understanding than anyone else of how to keep that show going the way that he would have wanted it to keep going. So I kind of I volunteered. I talked to the venue. They were on board with keeping it going. They didn't want to see it end either, just because he passed away so suddenly. And they agreed, and I did. I kept it going. I kept it going right down to, Ross, one of your guests last week. He, that whole time, was the regular host for that show. And I was like, that's not even up for debate of me changing the host. Like, it's still Ross's show. I want to keep going as if Matt was still here doing it. And I've kept that going still for the last, over 4 years. And as soon as this stupid pandemic's over, I'm going to get right back to it. Keep it going.
Indeed, you definitely would have made Matt proud, because with Ross and you're welcome, and it's a huge honor for me whenever I go down there and you guys pick me to. Everyone wants to be on that stage, because there's nothing like it. There's like standing room only every time I go, and like all the cool Orlando comics and everywhere else, they always swarm to the Bull and Bush just for Shit Sandwich.
I think if that room, just the room itself is so perfect for comedy. Like it certainly was not designed, with stand-up comedy in mind. But if you were to design a room for a small, intimate stand-up comedy show, like I don't know if you could do much better than what the Bull and Bush is. The sound, the acoustics in there are just so perfect. You go to a lot of shows at some bars, especially like breweries, and the ceilings are crazy high, and the sound's all echoey, and the room is way too big for the amount of people that are in there, and that's not a problem at the Bull & Bush. We can have a crowd of 20 people, and it can feel like it's a sold out show. It's just such a perfect place to do what we do.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for always, putting me on, and those that I vouched for, putting them on too.
No, you never steered me wrong, Sareth.
I don't ever plan on doing so, and
I didn't think you did.
and since you've done so much for the festival and raised so much money for everyone, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on my festival when I have it every summer. So.
That'd be great. I'd love to get out there sometime. It'd be fun.
Awesome. And a while back, you had a game to remember on your podcast, and I listened to a few episodes and stuff, and it deals with video games.
Yeah.
And what are your favorite video games from like every generation that console you owned?
Oh my God, I'm pretty old, so this is going to go back a long way. Let's see. I guess the first console I guess I really owned that was my own was the NES. In terms of favorite game from that era, probably like Mega Man 2. Nice. I think was probably my favorite, or Contra.
Nice.
Like Punch Out. There's so many, man. Like it's there's so many great games from every era. You really want to go forward by generation? I'll do it. It's fine.
Yep.
All right. So I guess like what would be next that I particularly owned? The Super Nintendo. I guess that would have been next. I think easily my favorite Super Nintendo game is Super Mario RPG. Legend of the Seven Stars, I think is what it was called. Something about 7 stars. I just thought that was like, I just think that game is perfect. Something like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past would be right there too. There are just so many perfect games from that era. And then I guess N64. I guess I got to go with GoldenEye, right? Like that's like really one of the first times that I remember, going to like sleepovers with friends. At this point, I'm in like, I'm just starting high school, I guess. So yeah, about 90, 96, 97. Yeah, I'm just starting high school, going to sleepovers with friends, like staying up on 4-player GoldenEye, going on probably on a TV screen that was way too small to be having 4 players on it. And that's so yeah, that sticks out to me from N64. Then we'll see. I guess the next would have been the first Xbox. Well, Halo, of course. Halo 1, Halo 2. And there was a few other shooters on there. Time Splitters 2. I believe it was Time Splitters 2. Just really great, fun, just like, again, like these were multiplayer games. And just hanging out with friends, down here, and we would bring Xboxes to each other's houses and wire LAN cables up, and have different consoles with different, teams of players in different rooms in a house and playing that way, was just so great. So I guess Xbox 360, PS3 generation, Mass Effect for me, probably, specifically Mass Effect 2, is I think one of the greatest games ever made. You also had the Uncharted games on PS3 that were just these great Indiana Jones, type adventures. Really just fun kind of cinematic stories to play through. Let's see, like this past year, like, I don't know, this past like generation, would have been, to me, I spent most of it playing Destiny. and Destiny 2. Started to get really into those, live service games that keep you coming back. Again, it's all about multiplayer. It's all about teaming up with friends and getting on the headsets and having like a regular group that you play with every single week. And it's just so replayable, so fun.
Indeed, most definitely. And for
Yeah.
the second half of the interview, I'd like to revisit the time that I interviewed you at the Italian restaurant when we had
Yeah.
one of the tumbleweed shows.
Do you remember when this was? Do you have an archive, like what the date of this was?
Many moons ago, a couple years.
I know it was many moons ago. It was like 2015, maybe 2016.
Definitely early on, for sure. I'll
Yeah.
have to definitely look up the date. I have it on the YouTube channel still.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had it handy, because I know it was a while ago.
Indeed, most definitely.
I still had more hair, I think, then.
So we'll jump right into that. And so what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
It was just, well, for me, oh geez, third decade of puberty is really the roughest. For me, it was like, so I needed an outlet. I spent pretty much all of my 20s playing in bands. I played in like punk bands and stuff like that, and that was like a great like performing and creative outlet. And all of that kind of ended right around the time I turned 30. And so after a while of just like, after that, kind of taking a break from and not really doing much of anything, I had always wanted to try stand up, and I had become aware only right before that there even was a stand-up comedy scene community here in Orlando. I had no idea until I went to a club called Back Booth, probably in 2012, and I went to see the comic Doug Benson, and one of his openers that night was this guy Nick Pupo, who I found out later, he was, I guess he was a local comedian, and I didn't even know Orlando had local comedians. So I started doing some research, actually found out I had a couple other friends that I knew from things before, from music stuff, that were involved in the scene. Larry Fulford. I'd met him probably in like 2005, before either of us started even thought about doing comedy. And Matt Gersting is also somebody I knew kind of just cursorily from work and stuff like that. We worked at the same place. I found out that they were involved in it, so I started checking out shows. I think the first local stand-up showcase I went to before I started was actually happened to be the first anniversary show of Shit Sandwich. So I went and saw that, and I just thought it was unbelievable. I was blown away by the levels that people were at, and how broad that was, right? Like, there were people that I thought were like ready to bust out, like they were ready to go. There were some people who were like, "Ooh, that's kind of rough," but it's kind of fun watching all of those different kind of skill levels on one show. And getting all of the different styles, that people have. Just to see that all in one place, 5 minutes at a time, was great. And I think it was like less than a month after that show that I, went to Austin's and got up myself.
Pretty sweet. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand-up at Austin's?
I really prepared very hard for that. And like, I went as far as I borrowed a microphone and a mic stand from somebody, just so I could practice like moving the mic stand out of the way, holding the microphone. I timed everything. All of everything I had to do, like I had it all timed out. I was like, I don't want to get up there and be like, oh, I thought this was 5 minutes and I'm done in a minute and a half kind of thing, you know? And I also didn't want to, oh, I thought this was 5 minutes and now I'm like running the light. You know, I was already aware of all of that stuff before I even got on stage. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but you know, I wanted to like hit the ground running. And actually my first set was not bad. I actually did pretty well that first night, which I know is kind of rare. I mean, I definitely had my bombs later when I got overconfident, you know, but that first show felt great, you know, and honestly, if it hadn't, I probably never would have done it again. And I would have said, hey, look, I tried it, not for me. I don't ever have to do this again. And I won't regret it. You know what I mean? But it actually went really well. And so, you know, here I am still hanging around the scene 7 years later.
Sweet. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
You know, like recently I saw Eddie Pepitone just put out a new one called In Ruins that I thought was, I think yeah, that's the one. It was just unreal. It was so funny. And this just came out like a month ago. You know, Patton Oswalt is another comic who I've always looked up to, always respected, always loved his stuff. And he had one that also came out this year. That was great. I mean, and also the ones, whatever it was I said when you interviewed me last time, or you know, I still love them. I listen to those old ones. I'm one of those people who, like, I'll go back and I'll listen to something like 40 times, but I'm not always very up on what's currently coming out. You know what I mean? But those are a couple of recent ones that I've liked.
Indeed. And Patton's show's coming back to TV, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
You know, all my favorite sitcoms are animated. Like Bob's Burgers is the one that I think that show is hilarious. Also, Netflix show. Oh my God. Oh, the one about shit. Sareth, maybe you can help me out. The one where it's like John Mulaney, Nick Kroll. They're going through puberty.
Was it Big Head?
Big Mouth.
Big Mouth. There you go.
Thank you. Yes. God, that's my 37-year-old brain just letting stuff go. But yeah, Big Mouth is a hysterical show. You know, I've never laughed as hard as I have watching some of that stuff. You know, sketch. I mean, I don't know. I grew up with Saturday Night Live, like in the early to mid '90s, which was you know, a great time for that show. You know, that's like when Will Ferrell was like really cooking on that show. You know, it was kind of like right after, like, you know, Adam Sandler and Mike Myers and those guys, and then like it was like this next sort of generation that, like, you know, Will Ferrell and those guys were just doing, Molly Shannon, you know, we're just doing a lot of really great stuff. So I'd say like that era of Saturday Night Live, probably, as far as sketch. What was the third one? Sorry.
Comedy films.
Oh, I mean, again, I'll try to like, I think say like maybe some more recent stuff that wouldn't have existed the last time we did this. Like recently, I think it was last year, there was a movie called Booksmart, which was just amazing. In my opinion, like that's probably the best American comedy that I've seen since like Superbad. You know, like Booksmart is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. Really funny.
I'll definitely check it out for sure. And if you can go on tour with any comedian locally or international and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
You know, I remember what I said to this question the last time we did it, and I don't think that answer has changed. Like, I would want to go with my friends. I'd want to go with Tom Feeney and Nick Pupo and Sean Finnerty and guys like that, Larry, guys like that who were just have been my friends since I started, and that I just feel like I've been through so much with, especially as far as like they were a lot of my partners on the festival. And I just have always felt like kind of bonded with those guys, and so yeah, that's who I'd want to go on tour with.
Sweet. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, top 5 dead or alive, which one's to get roasted by?
To get roasted by? Oh man, your recent guest Ross McCoy is an amazing roaster. I don't know if you knew that or not. Man, who else is really good? Big Tim. It's always fun. You never know what the hell that guy's going to say.
Yeah.
Simon Nash is a guy in town who I think is probably the best. He's the best local roast battler that I've ever seen. We were doing roast battles a few years ago, like when everybody was. But he's like, I thought he was the best roast battler we had. He kicked my ass a couple times. And I deserved it because his jokes were phenomenal. Let's see, that's 3. Who else? I mean, oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I like getting roasted by people that know me. And I think that's the way to do it. Like, it's not fun getting roasted by a total stranger. It's not like you're going to offend me or you're going to bother me with anything you say, but it's like when you know me well enough to really give something to me, it's so much funnier that way. It's not just, oh, well, you look like this. Well, I mean, I have a mirror. I know what the fuck I look like. Really, it has to be somebody that knows you, so again, just any one of the dozens of friends that I've made in this comedy community in the last 7 years would be great. I'd love to hear what they had to say.
Absolutely. And where do you see your comic career in the next 5 years?
I have no idea. Let's get out of our houses first, and then we'll talk about it. Honestly, who knows? Who knows what the world is going to look like when it's finally safe to get back out there. I mean, it's sad, right? Like, how many bars, how many venues are we going to lose? Like, how quick are people going to be to want to come back out to shows? I think there's a lot that's really up in the air right now. And I think that it's, I think that it's cool that, that you're doing these things, these streams and things that you've been doing. I think it's cool. People that have really figured out how to do a virtual, online comedy show and make it good, because I know that there's people who are doing that. And that's really hard. That's really, really hard to do. So it's cool that, the pandemic may have killed live comedy, but I don't want to say killed, but, put it down for the time. But it hasn't killed comedy. It hasn't killed interesting comedy. So I don't know, man. I really don't even want to say what I think in 5 years. Like, there's just too many variables to answer that question, I think, honestly. I hope we're back out. I hope we're doing shows like we were doing. And I hope it comes back. I hope it comes back just like it did before.
Indeed. And which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
Yeah, I remember my answer to this question from the last time too, and I don't think it's changed. I really like writing. I like the idea of like writing for late night type of show, like really like topical, current events types of jokes. Um, I think that's for me at least, like that's where I would fit. I think better than anywhere else. Yeah, I mean, I can't do improv. Oh, I won't say can't, but I don't really have a big affinity towards improv. So I think just like just taking very simple topical jokes and making them unique would be really fun.
Indeed. And what is your favorite joke a comic has ever written?
Oh man. Whew. I'll tell you the one that made me laugh the hardest the first time I heard it, and I don't know, I don't want to like butcher his joke, so I'll kind of just give the general gist of it. There's a local comic, Christophe Jean. He has a joke that it starts off talking about. He's like talking about how his dog died, and the dog's name was Pepsi. And he goes to a sports bar or like a restaurant or whatever after the dog dies, and the waitress comes out to him, and the waitress asks him what he'd like to drink, and he orders Coke, and then the waitress goes, "Is Pepsi okay?" It's just, and he's like, well, not anymore. But it's like he does it like he like really leans into it, and you actually believe that this man just like lost his dog. Like he really acts it out well. It's a dumb joke. It's so dumb, but that's what I love. Like I just love stupid jokes. I do. Like, you're like, why am I even laughing at this? This is so, but that's what I love. So I don't know. Like, that's one I remember that the first time I heard it, I was just cackling in the back of the room. I just thought it was great.
That's definitely one of my favorite locals comics.
Yeah. He's super talented.
Absolutely. Final question is, what experience would you like your eyes to take with him after a set is over?
I don't know. Maybe just that they heard something that they could relate to without even thinking that it would be something that they would relate to. I do material on parenting. I do material on just like nerdy stuff, movies, different music, where I'll just like kind of like, I've done a few jokes where I just kind of like start to like break something, a piece of pop culture down, like a Don Henley song or a Disney movie or something like that, and I just hope that I've said something that somebody would go, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. I never would have gotten there myself, nor would I want to spend the time thinking about banal things like that. But yeah, I get it.
Indeed. And any final shout outs you'd like to give out there?
No, I mean, if any of the people who I haven't seen in 5 months that are watching this, I hope everybody's good. I hope everybody's hanging in there, and hopefully we'll see everybody as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's my handle right next to my name. And follow Doug on Twitter as well. And subscribe, and comment and share this video in the future. And we went over by 4 minutes, Doug. I promised you
That's okay.
An hour.
We're good.
Thank you for hanging on the last four with me. You're the best, and I appreciate everything you've done for the scene.
Well, same. I mean, you've done a lot yourself, and not just this scene, but out in Colorado. Like you're honestly, you're one of the hardest working dudes that I know. You're always coming up with new projects, and I love it. Love to see it.
You're the best, Doug. Thank you again for being my guest, my very first guest
You're
on
welcome, man.
Wockonzo Weekly. We'll continue this on until the pandemic ends, and we'll definitely see you soon, Doug. And
All right, man.
look forward to working with you in the future again.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Awesome, bud.